If you would like to see the stupidest move you could ever make in the U.S. military as an active duty service member, it is leaking information to your adversaries, such as China right now, as top headlines are saying 2 U.S. Navy sailors arrested for allegedly sharing sensitive military information with China. One of the sailors, Jin Chao Wei, was arrested on Wednesday as he arrived for work at Naval Base San Diego, according to a statement released Thursday by the U.S. Attorney for Southern District of California. The base is one of the largest Navy installations in the Pacific. The other sailor who's been arrested, Petty Officer Wen Hang Zhao, worked at Naval Base Ventura County in Port Hueneme, California. To give context on this, the Naval Base San Diego, you got to think of ships, and I know a lot of people that are not Navy don't understand this. There are ships down in San Diego. However, Ventura County, you're looking at a lot of the CV community, people that do building of materials, constructional type work, essentially, where they would make sure the infrastructure was there so the Navy could do its job. And it's not been used in traditional sense, but it is up there in Ventura County, probably like 3 hours north of where San Diego's at. The charges demonstrate the People's Republic of China's determination to obtain information that is critical to our national defense by any means so it can be used to their advantage. Matt Olson, the Justice Department Assistant Attorney General for National Security, said at a news conference Thursday. I can tell you I've actually personally had an interaction with similar questionable people that have been around filming military people before, and it's quite sketchy. But it's interesting to look at the jobs because, one, I understand, the other I wouldn't based on the context of what these were, but I'll cover you into this very soon. Prosecutors say that Wei, who served as a machinist mate on the USS Essex, allegedly entered into a quotations handler asset relationship with a Chinese intelligence officer beginning in February of 2022. Machinist mates are a class of engineers and are responsible for operating, maintaining, and repairing ship equipment. So these are engineers, people that make sure that they understand that the ship can go out and do what it's supposed to do, because the ship can't run. Guess what? That's it. It's not going anywhere, and it has no effective fighting force, and that's why I'm like, this one makes sense. They do not cover this other individual that's located over in Ventura County up north of LA, and I'm like, I don't know what they would have had, what job would have been so particular, but I'm like, the ship makes sense. That really doesn't. Also, can we address the fact that this took over a year for the U.S. government to finally take action on? How much data was needed to be collected in order to make sure that they had a right to take these guys down? I'm like, God, and these are just people that they know, right? Like, who else are they tracking? How many other, maybe hundreds of people are the Chinese trying to go after? They say much of the information Wei allegedly sent to the Chinese officer was stored on a restricted access Navy computer, systems that Wei was able to access because he had a security clearance. The indictment against Zhao, meanwhile, alleges that between August of 2021 and May of 2023, Zhao provided sensitive U.S. military information, including operational plans for a major military exercise in the Indo-Pacific, to a person posing a maritime economic researcher. That person was actually a Chinese intelligence officer, the indictment says. I'll say this, that this is not just a one spin-off. If it took them from August 2021 to now in August of 2023, 2 years later, not like a slip up. I just let this researcher know a couple key details of what CBs were doing in the Indo-Pacific region. I mean, this is basic operational security. Anybody that's been in the military knows, like, don't say where you're going, what you're doing, times, dates, places, individuals that are going to be there. Like, it makes it very easy, right? Zhao, who is responsible for installing, repairing, and servicing electrical equipment on U.S. military installations, also had a security clearance, prosecutors say, and allegedly took photos of computer screens that displayed quotations operational orders of military training exercises and provided them to the officer. He also allegedly transmitted photos of blueprints and diagrams of U.S. radar systems stationed on military base in Okinawa, Japan, prosecutors say. Those documents were marked unclassified for official use only, but prosecutors say that as part of his official duties, Zhao was, quotations, required to protect controlled unclassified information and information related to the Navy's operational security. He was also required to report suspicious incidents, the court filing states. And yeah, I mean, even though stuff's unclassified, you guys that are not military maybe don't know this. I mean, even open source information is something that has to be aware, what is leaked out, and if they could correlate things from open source information to make understandings of what military operations are happening or their capabilities. And according to the article here, it looks like Zhao had received $15,000, right? I'm going to tell you right now, Zhao is going to want way more than $15,000 for the hurt and pain that is going to come onto him, as he's going to be under the scrutiny of the UCMJ, which is the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and on top of that, federal charges as well. And I'm like, this guy is not going to see daylight for a long period of time. Let's just say that. And I believe they're going to make a massive example of this. The U.S. Attorney says, "We have entrusted members of our military with tremendous responsibility and great faith," said U.S. Attorney Randy Grossman of the South District of California. "Our nation's safety and security are in their hands. When a soldier or sailor chooses cash over country and hands over national defense information in an ultimate act of betrayal, the United States will aggressively investigate and prosecute." They say the broader issue of espionage or the lack of proper handling of classified information is something as old as warfare itself, Ryder said. That said, again, we have a robust set of policies and procedures going through the situation that you're referencing in terms of the airmen. As you know, we have done a very thorough analysis on steps that can be taken to further tighten controls, and we're working through that process now. So there are a couple things that you guys need to understand. There are administrative barriers, physical barriers, policy barriers, right, that all come into play as far as allowing people to have information on a need-to-know basis, right? Physical barriers, right? You can't physically enter a certain area. You have administrative, like, do you have the clearance to go in there, right? And so you look at, and even computer barriers, do you have the codes to get into something like that? So there are several barriers looking at this, and I don't know if this is going to make people say we need a tighter control on people with last names that relate to China, right? Would that be something that's looked at? You know, do they further investigate or deeper dive into this? And like I said before, this is not the first time. I didn't cover it on this channel because I felt like there wasn't much to talk about. But as I see trends pop up through the media and through, uncoverings of what's going on out in the world, there was not that long ago the airman that was, from his barracks room or dorm room or whatever, releasing information to people, and he was just in the National Guard. It was not something that, you think someone's top secret in the top parts of it that is top brass, right? That would have a lot more access. They're looking to cherry pick small, lower people that need some incentive with money, right? And some people that are probably hurting for whatever reason. And that's why when we talk about clearance, you can't have debts. You can't have things like that, because the fact that this $15,000 for a lot of people that are junior ranked out there can probably say, I would easily give that up for their own security, because they're like, what's it a loss to me? So that's why these things are factors as far as security clearance. And also on top of that, why there are factors of you need to document every single person you've known since you were like 2 years old, who your neighbors were, things like that, who your friends are outside the country, and why they take that stuff very seriously. So what are your thoughts on what the U.S. government can do to tighten restrictions on this? Do you think it's tight enough? Or do you think that this is a trend we're going to see, as information warfare seems to be the next key proponent as to who is going to have the upper hand or leverage? Let me know down in the comments below. If you guys like what I cover on this channel, hit me up over on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.